Welcome to the Black Mental Health Forum, a dedicated space for fostering meaningful conversations, support, and resources around mental health within the Black community. Our forums aim to break down the barriers of silence and stigma, providing a platform for open dialogue, shared experiences, and valuable insights. Whether you're seeking guidance, resources, or simply want to engage in a supportive community, you're in the right place. Together, let's nurture a culture of understanding, compassion, and empowerment. Thank you for joining us on this journey towards mental health well being.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today at the Black Mental Health Forum, another new episode. Today, we're talking about nutrition and mental health, and we have Coach Alexis with us to give us the goodies on how we should be eating to help maintain our mental health. And Coach Alexis, please introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. My name is Alexis Martinez, and I am a nutrition and wellness mindset coach. I recently graduated back in 2023 with my undergrad in dietetics. And then I graduated this year with my master's in positive psychology. So I have done a lot of research on these two topics, and I'm really excited about talking about them today.
Thank you. Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, let's jump on in. We have people that are joining us, and we want to make sure that they are here with us to the end. First question, can you explain the connection between nutrition and the mental health, particularly how certain foods can impact the mood and cognitive function?
Yeah, so this is a pretty newly researched topic. Research did start back early in the 20th century about this particular topic, about how food affects mood. But more research and money is poured into how medication affects mood versus food. So in more recent years, due to the public health crisis that we have in the United States and around the world, where people, more and more people are being diagnosed with different conditions, more research about nutrition and how it can support mental health has come about. So a couple of things that have come out is how the processed foods can affect our mood. So ultra processed foods, because we do have processed foods that they're not necessarily bad for you. Certain things are okay, but ultra processed foods, like the things that you wouldn't get at the fast food restaurant or in packaged foods, things that are high in sugar, high in saturated fats, refined grains, so your white flours, white breads, white pastas, that kind of stuff. All of those negatively impact mood or according to research. People who have higher diets or diets that are higher in those particular foods have been shown to have higher risk for depression, anxiety, and other mood disorders. Whereas whole food diet, so people who eat diets higher in whole grains and low or lean meats and less sugar, have been shown to have less risk of developing mental health problems. So that's one of the main things that has been shown through research.
That's great. That's a lot. And I know a lot of us, and we're accustomed, especially over here in the United States, we're accustomed to eating fast food and all the processed foods, and because of that, we're so overweight.
Yeah.
And yet always tired or fatigued and moody. So that explains a lot.
Yes, it does. But something I also found in research too is that like vegan diets actually have a higher risk of depression too. So it's pretty interesting, but it has a lot to do with nutrients and the nutrient breakdown in certain diets. and just making sure that you are getting all of your nutrients. So diets that kind of restrict certain food groups, like a vegan diet, you have to be very intentional in making sure that you get nutrients like B12, which is one of the main nutrients, and I'm sure we'll talk about it later, but that helps with preventing mental health disorders. So yeah.
Well, I
So
mean, you could go right on into it. Go right on into it as far as this B12 is. That's why we need to be getting B12 shots.
so yeah, so B12 shots help, and foods that are fortified with B vitamins as well is helpful, but you have to think food is the best source of nutrients for your body absorbs nutrients better when you eat them in food versus a vitamin. It's not as bioavailable to your system, so some of that nutrient that you might take in a vitamin goes straight in the toilet because your body just can't process it. So it's really important to kind of know what foods offer what. So B12 is something that is offered in your meats, your proteins. So eating lean meats, and you want to make sure that they're lean because the saturated fat that is found in meats is also linked to risk of depression. So trying to pick like chicken and fish, poultry of any kind. You can do beef. I would do that in moderation. And then when you do buy it, just paying attention to like the fat content. So buying meats that are 85 to 95% lean is better than, just buying beef that has not been, that's not lean. So, but yeah, those B vitamins, definitely you find those in animal products mostly. So even like in your yogurts and dairy products, that kind of thing is where you would get B12 and other B vitamins like folate and that kind of stuff. So yeah.
It's awesome you say this because I had a young lady on. She juices,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about when you go to the grocery store, you shop the outer aisles. Don't
Yeah.
shop. I mean, that was just amazing to me. And
Yeah.
so she was saying when you shop the outer aisles, it's the fruits and the vegetables and your meats and your dairies. And she said, but when you go in the mid aisles, that's where all the processed food is. She just blew me away.
Yeah.
I had to stay out of the
It is. That's something that they actually talk to us about in school, is like making sure that you get your whole foods, and really all the whole foods are on the perimeter of the grocery store. So, you might need to go down the aisles for like whole grains, so your breads and things of that nature are there, but just staying away from packaged foods as much as possible. I mean, we do live in a society where you're gonna eat something processed. It's really kind of difficult to avoid. But that's where learning ingredients and reading food labels, all of that is really important. So you know exactly what you're eating and what you're getting in the foods that you are ingesting in your body. Yeah.
well, and I know we're not on the questions. I'm just asking as they come to me.
Okay.
But for the new people, if you get a new client that really knows nothing about nutrition, how do
Yeah.
you start with them?
So I would particularly start easy. So like I'm a nutritionist for the health department for the Georgia WIC system. So something that we talk about a lot is My Plate. And My Plate, it just tells you how to divide up your plate to make sure that you're getting the key whole food groups. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and dairy is on there. To me, dairy is kind of controversial based on the research that is out there. But if you break your plate up, you take your plate and you do a fourth of vegetables, a fourth of fruits, a fourth of whole grains, and a fourth of lean proteins. That is a simplified way of kind of helping you understand how to set up a healthy plate. So your meals may not look like that every meal. So breakfast, typically we eat like a bowl of cereal or some oatmeal. You might have eggs and bacon. So you don't necessarily have to do that every meal, but the My Plate just gives you a general idea of like, well, a fourth of my diet should be, or at least half of my diet should be fruits and vegetables. So you want to try to get those in at every meal if you can. The lean proteins, you at least want a fourth of your daily diet to have those lean proteins in. And then those, it depends on what your goals are too. So if you're coming to me and you have a goal that you want to build more muscle, then you're going to eat a little bit more protein than the average person if you're doing the exercise to use that protein effectively. So it just kind of depends, but I use my plate because it is just it's a picture and it's simple to explain, like, okay, this is what you need to be getting each day: fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and protein. Yeah.
Okay. How does health, gut health relate to mental health, and what does dietary strategies um, can support the healthy gut? What's that? Microbiome?
Microbiome, yes.
Okay.
So gut health, your gut is your second brain. Like, that is medically, people look at your gut as being the second brain. So your brain communicates with your gut through what's called the vagus nerve. That's the link directly from your brain to your stomach. And that it just, whatever you put here is going to affect your clarity, mental clarity, your emotions, mood, that kind of thing. So our stomachs have microbiome or bacteria in our guts. So eating those ultra processed foods that we talked about earlier, the high fats, high sugars, things like that, directly impact the flora that's in your stomach. So when you're eating a diet that's high in that, you're going to disrupt that. And it's not going to be a healthy environment for the healthy bacteria to flourish and grow. So being very intentional about making sure that you get foods that are prebiotics and probiotics into your diet is really important. So you can do that through getting the supplements off. You can go on Amazon and buy pre and probiotics. Those are helpful. Or you can do it through food. So that's why you hear yogurt is one of the probiotics that's really good for your gut. You can do fermented foods like sauerkraut. I have a list here: kefir. Um, Fiber-rich foods like garlic, onions, and bananas, they feed those probiotics to kind of help them to balance out in your gut. So just making sure you get pre and probiotics into your system so that communication between your gut and your brain, which is also called the gut-brain axis, is effective and working properly. Yeah.
And so when you're talking about this, I'm thinking about juicing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, I know it's good, but just how good is it?
So juicing is excellent. Juicing just outside of the gut provides the body with antioxidants, especially those fruits that have higher, they're darker in color. So your dark grapes, your dark berries. That's why people say that wine is good. Dark red wine. You should drink a glass of dark red wine a day because it provides your body with those antioxidants that it needs. So that's kind of where juicing would fall in. It's not necessarily like a pre or probiotic situation. Bananas kind of fall in there. So certain fruits do. But overall, like, juicing is really good. However, fiber is really good for mental health, managing mental health. So when you juice, you kind of strip the fiber from the fruits. So maybe doing juicing a couple times a day is fine, depending on whether or not you're watching your sugar intake, because even though fruits are good for you, they are higher in sugar. So some people need to manage that a little more than others. But getting a whole fruit in is 10 times more excellent because it just provides your body with that additional fiber as well.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's where the prebiotic comes in with the fiber. Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Coach Alexis before I continue on with the questions? Okay. Well, we're going to continue because this is a really good subject that needs to be talked about because a lot of us, I know men and women of color, we don't think about this. We're just trying to eat for the
Yeah.
most part. And those of us who suffer from chronic illnesses, this is definitely of most importance. Maintain a good, healthy diet.
And I will say, I didn't say this in my intro about myself, but I've been diagnosed with major depression, ADHD, and anxiety. So these are diagnoses that I've had for many years now. But I did not know about the food aspect of that prior. So now learning all of this, and knowing how to implement it in my own diet each and every day, I definitely see a difference. So yeah, I will say on a personal level, nutrition is so important in that.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's one of the things that this podcast is endeavoring to do, is to be a bridge between the Black community, Black church, and the mental health professionals, nutritionists, coaches, because I'm trying to take it from a holistic standpoint. To let all of us know that everything can affect our mental health.
Yes.
But it's not too late to start somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, I got my ADHD diagnosis at 38. So I was a full-grown adult and was just coping, And so it's never too late to start. It's never too late to look into those diagnoses. One of the reasons why I wanted to pair my positive psychology degree with nutrition was because I feel like in our community, we don't even seek that type of help. You know what I mean? So just kind of, I love what you're doing. We're bringing awareness to that because for a lot of us that may have ADHD, ADHD has a lot of symptoms that I see expressed in our community, but women, we are so good about multitasking and taking care of business and going from here to here. And it manifests in our eating habits. It manifests in our exercise habits and how we take care of ourselves, our self-care rituals, and also coping with food and other substances. So once you know what you're dealing with, it makes it a whole lot better to kind of narrow down and understand, like, okay, how can I take care of myself a little bit better? Yeah.
I appreciate this very much because, like I said, us as men and women of color, we're just, like you said, either coping and we're taking care of others. By the time we do take care of us, we're about falling apart. And if I can catch somebody before they fall apart, I'm good.
Yeah.
And like you said, becoming aware is the most important thing. And then hopefully they can take some of this information and start to implement it.
Yes, absolutely.
Anybody have any questions? Can you discuss the role of inflammation in mental health disorders and how dietary choices can either contribute to or alleviate inflammation?
Yeah, so this kind of leads back to those highly processed foods again. But any diet that's high in your trans fats, refined sugars, processed grains, those can cause inflammation in the body. And what inflammation does, or inflammatory foods kind of do, is they affect your central nervous system. They cause oxidative stress, and they also disrupt that microbiome that we talked about earlier. So the best way to address that is to try to eat anti-inflammatory foods. So those are your whole foods. So fish, any kind of fatty acid, omega-3s, that kind of thing. So you get that from your fish, your nuts, your berries, your seeds. Chia seeds is a really good one. Olive oils. So your healthier oils. So plant oils is a really good oil to use on a day-to-day basis. A lot of people use vegetable oil, which is a healthy oil, but you kind of want to use oils that are higher in polysaturated fats. So that is your olive oils, your canola oil, your grapeseed oil. Those are oils that are liquid at room temperature. Those oils are much better for your heart health as well as your mental health. So
This is a lot for someone that is that's why I encourage coaches and
yeah,
mentors, because somebody that's new to this, when you're trying to Google all this stuff, it's overwhelming.
yeah,
You end up just getting shocked and not even do anything.
yes,
But even if you can afford a coach, start somewhere. Start
definitely.
somewhere.
Yeah, it's something that as coaches we do is you map out a plan. So you set like an overall goal of, say, you're dealing with a struggle, or you want to lose weight, or you want to learn how to kind of manage your habits a little bit better. Whatever that is, you set the overall goal, and then once you set that goal, you start figuring out the steps that you need to take to get to that particular point. So it's really dealing with one thing at a time. And a lot of people don't like hearing that, like, especially when it comes to like weight loss and things like that. Nobody wants to start with stop drinking sugary drinks and drink water every day. How is that going to help me lose 20 pounds in 30 days? People they don't want to hear that. They want the quick fix. They want to do it right now. But when it comes to like our health, like our overall health, physical health, mental health, it's a holistic process, I like to say. So it's you dealing with okay, you're gonna start here, you're gonna master this, you're gonna deal with this, and then you're gonna move on to the next thing, and you're gonna do this, and you're gonna master that, and then you're gonna move on to the next thing. And it's an ongoing process. And I think all of us will be dealing with things like that, or learning to better ourselves till the day we die. So don't rush it. You got your whole life to get
And,
better.
and so these are life changes. Like you
Yeah.
said, it's not an instant gratification, because I'm learning, although I do not like the process, I know we have to do it. It's a journey, but in the
Mhm.
process is the learning.
Yes.
It's so you're learning. You have to change your taste buds. I've learned that you have to change your taste buds, and you can't just radically do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's what they say. You'll crash. You stop this, and then you end up crashing. So
Yeah.
it's the longevity thing.
Yes. That is true.
Are there any diets or eating patterns that have been shown to be beneficial for the mental health, such as the Mediterranean or DASH diets?
So yes, the Mediterranean diet and DASH diet both have been studied. When it comes to mental health, the Mediterranean diet comes out on top, and that's just because it has all the components of, fruits, vegetables, the healthy fat, healthy oils. It's low in saturated fat. They even I think with the Mediterranean diet, a little bit of wine, red wine is included in that to make sure that you're getting antioxidants and things like that. So it is one of the better diets research wise. Me particularly, I am a Black woman. So I do enjoy African American diet. And I feel like any diet can be a healthy diet if you know how to put those components into your meals. So, for collard greens, for example, for the sodium, replacing the pork for turkey, you know what I mean? Like making those small changes can make really any diet a healthy diet. You just want to make sure that you have those higher amounts of fruits and vegetables, those healthy oils versus those saturated fat oils, cutting out the processed red meats. That's another thing about the Mediterranean diet that makes it healthy is it really cuts out red meat altogether. And the meat that's included is extremely lean and it's in moderation. So, it can be done with any diet. You just have to be very intentional and kind of understand, what to do to change your diet to make it healthier.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I know a lot of us tend to search out these various diets.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, and then we don't stick to it.
Right. Because you don't like it.
So I don't know what Mediterranean food is, but I'm
it's actually good. It's good food.
It's good.
I will go through. Yes, it's very good food. But like you're not cooking like that at home if that's not your culture. You can make dishes here and there that's like that, but if it's not your culture, why try to force that? Just make the changes in your own particular diet. Yeah.
Thank you. What role does hydration play in mental health, and how can individuals ensure they are adequately hydrated to support their cognitive function?
So water is extremely important for brain function. It helps with cognitive function. So like people who may not drink enough water, or you start to feel dehydrated, that's probably the first sign that something is wrong. Your mental clarity is off, kind of a little bit off. So you just want to make sure you drink enough water per day. And most of us don't. I'm gonna be honest. That's a struggle of mine. I don't like plain water as much as I should. So, but it's recommended that you drink anywhere between 2 and 3 liters of water per day. And you can calculate exactly or more closely to what your body needs, because this alters person to person. If you're more physically active, you're going to drink more water. If you're pregnant, you're probably going to need more water versus a teenager who's sedentary, sits in his room, play video games all day, probably not going to need as much water. He weighs less and not doing much physical activity. So you can take your weight and you can multiply it times 0.5, and that will give you a number that will tell you about how many liters of water you should be drinking per day.
That's awesome. Because I think I heard where you take your weight and you divide it in half, and that's how many
That's
liters.
another way. Yeah.
That's another way. Okay.
That is another way. Yeah.
Can you provide insights into the impact of caffeine and alcohol consumption on mental health, and any recommendations for moderation?
Yeah, so caffeine in moderate amounts, it's a stimulant. So it can help you stay more alert, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And you may notice that it increases like a good mood because it's giving you energy. However, especially for people who are dealing with like mental health conditions, you may want to limit caffeine because it can cause jittery behavior. It can cause anxiety or increase the risk of having anxiety. So sometimes I know for me, I notice like if I drink coffee in the morning, I feel okay. But if I go past like that second cup, probably around noon, for whatever reason, I'm feeling a little bit jittery. my anxiety is a little bit on edge. So coffee can definitely do that. Alcohol, on the other hand, is a depressant. So people who are dealing with like depression probably shouldn't drink as much alcohol. You would think because it is a depressant or it calms you, that drinking it to kind of manage anxiety, which a lot of people do, and they don't realize that they're self-medicating with alcohol for that reason. But overall, the long term, if you're drinking alcohol in excess over a long period of time, it can cause cognitive impairment and increase those depression symptoms. So it's best to stay away from those, especially if you're dealing with anything related to mental health.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah. As we as people of color, we definitely self-medicate.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah. We do. That's how we get through. We don't go to doctors. We don't trust the doctors. We don't want to do the medication. So we find our own ways to kind of to deal with certain things. And, in moderation, both are fine. But, if you are actually dealing with something, it's probably not the best thing because it can snowball into more problems for you.
Whew, this is a lot of good information.
I'm glad you're enjoying it.
How do meal timing and frequency affect mental health, the mental health being, and are there optimal eating patterns for promoting mental health? Now, what is meal timing?
So meal timing is just eating on a schedule. So for people, you have a circadian rhythm, right? Your body is awake during the day and it is tired or resting at night. And that's kind of aligned with like nature, how the sun comes up, then it goes down and the moon comes out at night. Your body is kind of aligned to that schedule. So you should eat on that schedule. When we are off of that, say we have a job that requires us to work overnight, where you can adjust to that over time, it does cause you some problems. It causes you to be off as far as your sleep is concerned, as far as your mental clarity throughout the day. So when we eat off of that schedule, all of those things still do apply. I took some notes here about that because I was actually researching intermittent fasting and time schedule eating through intermittent fasting. So there's research that when you do fasting within a 12-hour window, because there's different ways to do it. But if you do your fasting between a 12-hour window, typically from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. is the window that's aligned with your circadian rhythm, then you have better digestion. It improves your blood sugar and improves your sleep patterns. And all of those things are actually linked to mood. So when your sleep is off, your mood is off. When your digestion is off, that's that gut-brain axis that's affecting your mental health. And then blood sugar, there's research to show that blood sugar, when it fluctuates frequently throughout the day, then that can lead to poor mental health as well. So to prevent your body's blood sugar from fluctuating, that's like staying away from the processed sugars and processed foods, that kind of thing. Eating more whole foods, because when we eat foods, we don't think about this, but like a meal is set up to kind of prevent your blood sugar from spiking. You have a protein, a carb, and a vegetable. When you eat those things together, it prevents the carb that you're eating from spiking your blood sugar quickly. So people who deal with like diabetes and things like that, that's why it's encouraged for them to eat like more fiber in their diet, for them to kind of eat more protein in their diet, because it will help to level out blood sugar levels. So I kind of got off track, but coming back around to time eating, if you eat within that schedule, that eating at a certain time that's aligned with your circadian rhythm helps with that as well.
And as you were talking, I was thinking about meal prepping and meal
Mhm.
planning, how
Yeah.
important that is.
Yes. So it is important. I'm of the thought that you do what works for you. So planning is important. So something I don't like sitting on Sundays and cooking out all my meals. I just for me that does not work. But however, you can sit and plan menus, just writing out what you're going to eat, kind of understanding what you're going to have for breakfast, lunch, and dinner ahead of time is really helpful for preventing you from making split decisions like I'm going to stop at McDonald's on the way home because I'm hungry. Understanding what foods you eat to keep you satiated for longer periods of time and trying to fit those into your daily diet. So like something I do is I just have healthy foods at work. I have snacks that I can snack on. I got yogurt. We got a whole kitchen. So I have yogurt, I have nuts and seeds, I have whole grain cereal, whole grain bagels. Like I got vegetables. Something that I do prep that is quick is like salads in a jar because those are easy to chop up lettuce, your favorite vegetables, boil an egg, make some turkey bacon or something like that, or some chicken, throw it all in a jar, and it's good for the week. So those are things that you can kind of prep quickly, which is good for me. If I have to cook all day long on a Sunday, that's not it's not gonna work for me. But you do what works for you and plan to your standards, or just do planning that works for you so that you can kind of prevent those moments of like just reaching for the quick fix at the time.
Any questions for Coach Alexis? Okay. Are there any potential interactions between specific medications and dietary choices that individuals should be aware of, particularly in the context of mental health treatment?
Yeah, so there's a lot of food nutrient interactions. So but the ones that are related to mental health that stand out is the MAO inhibitors, which is a depression medication. So if you are on that particular type of medication, certain foods that give the amino acid tyramine, which can be found in certain red meats, you might have to avoid. I think eggs was something else that you would have to avoid if you're on that particular medication. So it's really important that if you are taking any type of medication, regardless of what that is, that you talk to your doctor or your pharmacist about interactions that could potentially be there. Something else is like, say there are herbs that are shown to kind of help with depression, one of them being St. John's wort. But if you are on a antidepressant, St. John's wort interacts with that and makes your antidepressant less effective. So yeah, so that's something that you kind of need to be aware of, because you might be thinking, okay, well, I'm gonna take this natural thing over here and I'm gonna pair that with my medication, and I would get a double whammy of, good mood, and you're actually suppressing your medication from working. So just being kind of aware of what your daily herbs, vitamins, whatever vitamins, minerals that you're taking, and how those interact with medications. I don't know them all, but I know for sure there are some.
Now that's a eyeful. That's a
Yeah.
because so taking it from the standpoint of your chronic diseases, your
Mhm.
mental health functions, how does a person who should a person look to when you're suffering from chronic disease, you're suffering from mental illness? Who,
Mhm.
I mean, is it a circle of people that you need? How does a person?
Yeah. So, for anybody dealing with any type of mental illness, you definitely need a doctor, a psychiatrist or a psychologist, depending on how you want to handle your condition. So some people don't like taking medications, and you can manage those things without medication. but you need a licensed therapist for sure, or a counselor. I'm going to promote coaching because while therapy kind of deals with like the deep mental, the triggers and all of that stuff, coaching kind of teaches you how to manage those things. So like, say if you are depressed, and you are struggling with or organization as a result of that, coaching can kind of take that bit by bit and help you to start focusing on, okay, well, what are some things you can do to get more organized in your day that you can handle? Like, what are small steps that you can take on a day-to-day basis? To relate that to nutrition, maybe your mental health condition causes you to eat more food. So for ADHD, for example, people who have ADHD tend to eat more foods. They're sensory driven, so they might consume more carbohydrates. So things that are higher in carbs are, they crave that because it's like a sensory thing for them. And then maybe you eat out of boredom if you have ADHD. So a coach will kind of help you, like, okay, so what are your triggers? What are some things that kind of trigger you to eat out of boredom, or learn how to notice when you are eating out of boredom and not out of actual hunger? Learn how to be more mindful when you're eating, taking your time, chewing your food, swallowing your food, taking breaks between bites, to make sure that you actually can observe when you are feeling full, that kind of thing. So coaches are really good for that. So there's a place for everybody: a doctor, a therapist, or a counselor, a coach. And it's different kinds of coaches too. Coaches vary in all aspects of life. So yeah, I think it's a team effort for sure.
What advice do you have for individuals who may struggle with emotional eating or disordered eating patterns? And how can they cultivate a healthier relationship with food?
Yeah.
Oh, talk to me on that one. Talk to me on that one.
So it is a team effort. So you first have to understand like why you're eating the way you're eating. So are you a person, like I said earlier, that eats when they're bored? For me, when I'm tired, I tend to like to eat. I eat on crunchy foods. So I like chips and popcorn and um, really crunchy, salty foods. That's kind of my go-to. Or what is it that's why do you lean towards like sugary snacks or things like that? Like you have to kind of understand what your triggers are and why you eat the way you eat. Some people would just say, I eat it because it tastes good, but it's really deeper than that. Honestly, it's not just that it tastes good. Like you really have to do the work to figure out why you are eating the way you're eating. So that's kind of where coaching comes in, is to understand that why, like to really get you to think about your thought process behind choosing the foods that you choose. And that may require a therapist, because a lot of trauma that's happened from years ago is a underlying trigger for the decision that you make as far as your food consumption is concerned. So like people may use alcohol, other people use food, some people use both. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of getting the professional help. I'm going to be honest, you may need professional help. You may need a coach to kind of help guide you through that process. But there are things that you can do online. There are books that talk about mindful eating that I do definitely recommend, learning how to be mindful in your eating habits. So a lot of us just, you find yourself just eating. You're not even hungry anymore. You just, because you just want to keep eating. So mindfulness will teach you to actually notice, okay, like I'm literally not hungry anymore. My stomach is full. Let me put this down, or I'm gonna put this right here. I'm gonna walk away and then I'll come back. Something that I noticed when I was doing intermittent fasting was that at 10 o'clock in the morning every day, I had like a wave of hunger. Like it was like, I am starving. I am starving. It's like, it was like on the dot at 10 o'clock every day. I was starving, but I was within my eating window or within my fasting window. So there was no eating. But literally, if I didn't think about it for 5 minutes, that wave passed and I wasn't starving anymore. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of understanding that you have to mindfully think about why you're eating. If you're hungry, being very intentional about paying attention to your body and how you're responding to the foods that you're eating, that kind of thing. So just learning mindfulness would be my number one tip, and then getting additional help, whether that be therapy or coaching, to help with that as well.
Okay. What's one thing you want us to take away from this abundance of information?
So food is healing, right? So I've spent the last 5 years learning about all these different diseases, but many of the key diseases that we deal with on a day-to-day basis is food related. So I'm not saying there's no place for doctors and medicine. There's definitely a place for that, but our eating habits really can impact both our physical and our mental health. Like, it can make or break it. And we live in a society, especially here in America, that doesn't promote health. We promote quick and convenient, immediate or instant gratification. So that's why we have crash dieting. That's why we have fast food restaurants on every corner. That's why we have public health crises like cardiovascular health problems within our own community, but the African American community, but literally every community is struggling with these things in America. So, and it's all tied back to food. So learning how to eat healthy, it's something that has to be learned. When you are used to making these choices for your entire life, you know, choosing the unhealthy foods, going to McDonald's on the weekend, eating a large fry. I used to stop on the way home from work and just stop for a fry. Those small little decisions make a humongous difference. So just being intentional about learning about nutrition, whether that is getting a coach or seeing a dietitian to teach you about foods and how they could either be impacting or how you can use food to help your condition, whatever it is that you might be dealing with. And it's longevity. So if we all want to live for as long as possible. And literally, diet is that one thing that you can change that will increase their longevity.
Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you for that tip.